Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Our first guest is a multi-genre, award-winning musician. Please join me in welcoming Gregg Young. How you doing, brother?
Very, very good, sir.
Good,
Pleased
good,
to be here.
good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've always got something going on, and I want to make sure, because you've been a guest on the show before, but for
True.
those who didn't get to see that episode, share a bit about who Gregg Young is and how you got into the industry.
Wow. That's a big question.
Yeah.
Uh, Short answer is I have a gift. I am a music maker.
Okay.
I entertained my parents when I was a little boy,
Huh.
and it just kind of continued on. And I just felt like I was drawn to guitar. And so I'm a guitarist as well as a singer, songwriter, and ASCAP composer, publisher. I have also formed my own record label, Shore Records. And what brings me here today is I was speaking with former Mayor Beverly O'Neill,
Mhm.
and I was asking her for some sage advice. A song I wrote a couple of years ago called "Together." It was considered in Best American Roots Song for a Grammy, and that song, I it's my first patriotic song that I've ever written,
Mhm.
and it's a very positive patriotic song.
Mhm.
And so this song, I think, is very important. The message of the song, especially now, today, as well as when it came out in I think it was November 8th, 2016.
Mhm. You know, listening to you say that, Gregg, I mean, I'm not a musician, but I do write lyrics and I am published on iTunes. But the thing I find about writing lyrics and poetry is that you have to tell a powerful story in a concise manner. And I hear you saying that with a song like Together. It's telling a powerful story, and music changes people and changes our communities in big ways. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely. I think music is the voice of the angels. I
Huh.
think it's very powerful. I believe that positive, powerful messages are needed now. Were needed in 2016, and for me as a writer, it's I've been going through, I don't know, my Picasso period, if you will, where it's very lean. I try to say a lot with as little as possible,
Right.
so
Right.
less is more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, locally, I know that you have a band and you perform. Share a bit about that and where people might see you.
Oh, very good. Thank you so much. I wanted to plug the Belmont Shore Stroll and Savor coming up on August the 22nd. It's a Thursday. We'll be there from 6 to 9 with the full band, and it's
Yeah.
free and it's open to the public, and it's
I
a
was
great
showing a
event.
little video of you out there doing your
Oh,
thing. Yeah, steel drums as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. We have.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we'll have a steel drummer with us for sure that night, but
right.
that was a great night. We'll have a couple at least two female vocalists,
Uh-huh.
and it's a very fun community event.
Right.
5,000 or so people turn out for it.
Hmm.
Everybody strolling and savoring, checking out all the food in the various restaurants, and it's a showcase for Belmont Shore, the jewel of Long Beach, if you will.
Right, right. It's a place you can find me several times a week
Yeah,
for
yeah. I was
sure.
seeing you down at Pete's when Pete's was open. We used to run
Yeah,
into each other like
right.
once
That was our
once a
office
week or
away
something.
from home, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry to see that go. But when you talk about community and you talk about, your music and talking to former Mayor Beverly O'Neill, Long Beach has a great sense of community and
Very
and
true.
and sharing that tradition. What would you say to young aspiring musicians and artists as you have gone through your career to encourage them to continue on with their career and follow their dreams?
Interesting. Not too long ago, I don't remember the exact date, maybe 2 months ago, I did something called Music Biz 101 for the
Ah,
Long Beach Arts Council.
right.
And many young musicians came out for it. And we covered everything from publishing to recording to what to do once you have your recording, what to look out for when you're placing your music on certain websites. There's so many aspects to the music. First, you have to have the music,
Hmm.
and then you have to deal with the business side of the music.
Hmm.
So I would say for a young musician, and if you go to music school, I went to music school after I had been signed to a major label. Um, we were never really, at that time, we were never really taught the business side of the music business. So we knew everything, melody, harmony, counterpoint, and all the various things that we needed to study, performance. And it was at Cal State Long Beach in the commercial music program. But at that time, there were no business classes. And now I know there are. They're online, they're everywhere. But at the same time, I think you need to get it from as many different points as possible. And then you need to evaluate what someone has shared with you, and you need to see if it applies for you and your direction that you're heading, because everybody's direction is different. There's many paths up the mountain, and all I'm able to do is share mine.
Right. The industry has changed so much. The opening music, as I was sharing with you, was on this show. It's done by Thomas Dawson, and Thomas is the music director of the Commodores, and
Great
a friend of mine. Yeah, but he was telling me how difficult it is for artists these days and how things have changed. But from your perspective, how has the industry changed from those days at Cal State to now? I mean, now you go online, you can download a song for free, and the artists aren't getting paid as much as they used to. Lots of changes, but what would you say would be some of the more profound ones that come to mind?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, and that I don't like to be a squeaky wheel or a sour grape. I don't like to complain because what is
right.
What
Absolutely.
isn't. And but the transition from, let's say, CDs to downloads to streaming, I think that's been a very radical change, especially for the songwriter, especially for the artist. One of the elements that I will share by virtue of being an advocate for, what should I say, change in the music industry via the NARAS, which is the Grammys. And we visit our congressmen once a year, every year in October. And I study what we are trying to work into Congress to have passed, to be looked at. And one of those elements was that the United States is the only country other than China and Iran, Iran and North Korea, that do not pay royalties from the radio stations and never have. So even when the Commodores were big, even when I was very young and I was signed to a major label, if we were being played on the radio, which was critically important, right? I mean, without that, you didn't exist. It's not that important. There's articles coming out every day now that radio's dead. So everybody's running one way or another when the new technology comes out. It's the shiny new object, and everybody chases after it, runs after it, wants to be a part of it, and then it rolls out, and you never know which way it's going to go.
Right.
You have, it's, and you don't know if it's going to be helpful or not helpful. And one of the elements, I met with Spotify at a conference one time. I'm representative of Spotify, and when we finished our meeting, it was a brief one, about 15 minutes. The young lady, she shook my hand, and I remember the statement that she made. She goes, "Go fast and break things."
Go fast and break things.
And I went like, "Whoa!"
Okay.
It's like, wait a second. I don't want to break my guitar. I don't want to break my finger.
Right.
I don't want to go that fast.
Right.
Coach Wooden from UCLA, just a blessed man. I love one of his statements, which is, "Go fast, never hurry."
We're almost out of time, but I want you to set the stage for Together.
Okay.
We're going to share it as we go out of this section of the show. But for those who are about to hear it, tell us about what inspired it.
Okay. When growing up, I would hear Ray Charles sing "America the Beautiful."
Right.
I would Apollo 11 right now. America's great. It's a phenomenal country. To have felt that it wasn't, that something was wrong, that we all didn't belong together, is the impetus for the song. Because we are in this together.
So let's hear it from Gregg Young, ladies and gentlemen. Together.
We are in this together. We are in this together.
wow, a powerful story together. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will be joined by journalist and producer and podcast extraordinaire Christine O'Donnell. Stay tuned for more of Long Beach Lens.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach. I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
I love Long Beach.
Because this is where I got my start and will continue to grow.
It's wonderful diversity.
It has awesome food festivals.
Because I like the beach.
Because of the beaches and the food.
It is a hub for all kinds of different artists of different platforms.
The great family feel.
The great food here.
For its diversity, its great neighborhoods, and its opportunities for families.
There's so much culture, art, and beauty in the city.
Because I'm born and raised here, and there's no place I'd rather be.
Is your footage shaky? Does your screen constantly flip? Recording with your phone is such a hassle, but not anymore, thanks to phone stabilizers. These devices keep your phone stable no matter what position it's in. This allows you to get the perfect shot every time. At PadNet, not only will you have access to these stabilizers, but you'll also learn how to use them efficiently.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with my fellow intern Grace. We're gonna go record some stuff for PadNet for the Belmont Shore Stroll and Savor, so stay tuned. Oh, can't you see? You belong to me.
LAMP is important to me because it helped me come out of my shell as far as sharing my ideas and performing in front of people. The showcase is like the coolest part because you get to perform with people who you now call like your friends or even your family in my case. To be on stage with them and to be performing the products that you guys have been working on nonstop for 7 weeks is the coolest thing ever. You go in not knowing anybody, like over time because you guys work so closely together for so long, you get to be comfortable with these people and you guys go through like trial and error. It's really cool to connect with people that have the same interests as me. It's a lot of fun, but you do have to put in as much energy into working as you do having fun doing what you like to do.
Welcome back. I'm Derek J. Simpson. Our next guest is a journalist, producer, and consultant. Please join me in welcoming Christine O'Donnell. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great, great. So
Great.
The first time I met you was a couple of years ago. Frontier was just coming into the community, and you were here doing consulting work, but you were with Fox. Tell us, those who don't know you, a little bit about who Christine O'Donnell is and your career in the industry.
That's a doozy of a question.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, well, I was a TV news reporter for a
Right.
long time, for about 10 years. And when we first met,
Wow,
I was
okay.
reporting with Fox 11 here in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
Good Day LA. And I
Mhm.
was also doing some media coaching. So
Right.
working with executives of top companies all over the world
Right.
to train them how to talk on camera if they find themselves on camera, or how to
Right.
be interviewed.
Right.
Mhm.
And they were going through some challenges being new into Long Beach, so that was perfect timing for them.
Yeah.
Do you find, Christine, as you look at the industry, that there's many people that could use that kind of coaching in terms of being at the executive level? Because it's not just about talking on camera, it's talking to audiences and really being able to pitch your story in a compelling way, right?
Yeah, I think that everyone can constantly strive to communicate better.
Right.
And I think that I'm someone who can always strive to communicate better. And I feel that executives at top companies, when it comes to speaking through a camera to their audience, might need some help and some coaching to guide them in that way. And so I'm happy to help them through that process.
Now, when you came in today, I was mentioning to you that many of our crew are interns here, and then we have the LAMP program where we have young aspiring artists, so to speak, in terms of the industry as well as music. But what would you say to, be it teens or young professionals, about pursuing a craft such as yours in this industry to inspire them to stay the course?
If you want to do it, do it. You
Right.
can totally do it. The information is out there for you to learn and succeed and grow. And so I think that there's a lot of people out there, at least in my life, who have said, you're not going to be able to do this, this is too hard. Or I remember once when I was in college, them looking at our class of 40 and being like, only one of you is going to make it.
That was encouraging to hear in your class, right?
And for me, that was kind of, fuel to the fire.
Right.
But I really like the idea of being like, if this is something you want to do,
Right.
you can make it possible.
Right.
You just got to work for it.
Now, would that be even more intimidating, I would imagine, in a major market? Because you've worked in several major markets, but like Los Angeles, it's instead of 40 people in a class, it's 400 people in a class, and it's even more intimidating, right?
I think that it can be intimidating if you look at it like that.
Right.
For me, I remember when I was first hired at Fox 11, thinking about it, like, oh, they're not going to want to hire me. Do I fit the mold of what a TV news reporter in Los Angeles is supposed to look like,
Right.
be like? Am I that person? I'm from a small town in upstate New York. I don't know if I can pull off LA.
Right.
And I really never should have second guessed myself, because the truth of the matter is there's always people out there that are going to connect with you.
Right.
And it's about making that connection. And no matter where you're from or what you look like, it just takes really getting to know someone. And I think that's what happened on my interview, is I really got to know the people in the room, and they were like, this lady's got something.
So you traveled that journey
Yeah.
as a reporter and journalist, and then you decide that there's a place in life where there's a transition. Not only becoming a mom, but also professionally speaking. Had to put that in there because
Yeah.
I know that's something you're very proud of. But tell us about the transition into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so now I've got a couple different things going on.
Okay.
I've launched a podcasting production and consulting company
Right.
where I am working with people who want to get their voice out there, who want to tell their story, and producing that content for them and helping them through the process so that they can make a difference in the world.
And I read that in the bio that you feel that this is especially important for nonprofits like us here at Long Beach Community Action Partnership and PadNet TV. For those who may be watching and intrigued by that, how so?
Derek, I feel there is a huge opportunity to just tell stories and let people in your community know about what's going on through the medium of podcasting. Podcasting it's like talk radio. If you like listening to NPR,
Right.
there's a good chance that there's a podcast for you. And you can start it and stop it throughout the day. And what you're doing with the LAMP program, every one of those kids has a story.
Absolutely.
And those stories, if they got out there, there might be more people who want to be a part of those kids' lives. And podcasting is one way to help get those stories out there if that's something that you guys were interested in doing. And so,
Well, it's certainly interesting.
I know it's heavy.
It is very heavy, but it's also inspiring. In fact, I was speaking to them last week, teaching a class on StrengthsFinder, and I asked, so 3 of you tell a story about something that no one in this room knows. One has been nationally acclaimed as a drummer since 10th grade, and he's now a freshman in college, a young man. A young lady is an amazing vocalist that they were just starting to hear. And one kid stood up in the back and says, oh, I've done a TED Talk. I'm like, what? I've not done a TED Talk. How did that happen? And so you have that end of the spectrum, but you also have the stories that bring you to tears. And so I hear what you're saying, but it's easier said than done. I know I read that it's becoming more mainstream in that 50% of Americans know about podcasts. That's a big demographic of possibility there.
Yeah.
So what are the steps? How would we, for instance, as an example, even think about that and go into it?
Well, first you have to
Call you.
Call me.
Okay, let's start with that.
We'll just put the super below.
Right.
What you want to do is figure out your purpose. What is
Okay.
the point?
Okay.
Why are you starting this podcast? What's your objective? Is it to spread the news, get
Okay.
information out there? Is it to raise funds for a cause? There's so many different reasons to share a story, but it's being really strategic about what it is and why, and knowing what your why is. So you figure that out first, and then you storyboard, you brainstorm what's going to make a great episode, and then you figure out what kind of show do I want to do. Do I want it to be an interview style like this? Do I want it to be more of a story that you listen to like on NPR? And so from there, you write things out and dig deep, do some research, and then you start recording and find a media host and more.
And those are two things I want to ask about. And so if I were to use myself as an example, for instance, I mentioned with Gregg that I'm a lyricist, but I also write poetry. And I am on iTunes in terms of spoken word, but I never thought about podcasts. Right?
Yeah.
And so as I hear you say this, it could be a narrative that the individual just comes up with and creates their content, correct?
Absolutely. Something I love about podcasting is
Right.
there's a low barrier of entry. So it doesn't cost a ton of money.
Okay.
Almost anyone can start a podcast.
Okay.
But if you want that podcast to be successful, you do have to be strategic about it. So again, it's finding your purpose, finding your why, and then embracing the strategies to be successful.
So let's talk about then some of the specifics real quickly as we have about 5 minutes. One is the equipment, I would imagine, that you have to actually technically, I mean, you storyboarded out everything. Now you have to technically create it. What's that step? Do I need a laptop? Do I need certain software? And I would imagine a microphone.
Yeah. Well, you got all the equipment you need right here.
Right. So all you guys come be a member of PadNet, but otherwise you can do it at home.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
so you can get a USB microphone,
Okay.
something simple that you can plug directly into your computer. From there, you can record directly on your computer with software that,
Okay.
I mean, there's a number of different
Right,
kinds
right.
of software you can use, and many of which come free on your computer. You can also use the microphone on your phone as long as you're in a room like your closet where
Right,
there's not a lot of echo and you get
Gotcha.
really good sound. So there's a number of different ways to,
So if you want to do
Figure
it,
it out.
there's a way to make it happen.
and then it's
simply
finding
put.
the media host for you and uploading your audio files and then letting people know that they're there.
Now, let's talk about media hosts because not everyone may be aware of that. Or I would imagine there are like a gazillion of them, but would it just be like doing a app search, or how would one go about identifying the best one for them?
Well, there are a couple different ones out there.
Okay.
Not a million yet, but
Okay.
give it time.
Yeah, for sure.
There's
Especially
still-
after this interview.
Yeah, there is, there's a company called Libsyn. That's the
Okay.
world's largest media hosting company. They've been in existence since 2004. Then there's other companies like Blueberry, and they're really proud of how they hook up to your WordPress site.
Okay.
So then there's Podbean if you want to keep it really simple. There's
Okay.
Simplecast. There's all of these
Lots
different
of
ones.
options.
Yeah.
And then is there like an ideal time frame, like in 5 minutes versus 25 minutes that one should shoot for?
Well, it always depends on your audience.
Gotcha.
You got to figure out what your audience wants. The most successful podcasts that are out there, like on the top 200 list of iTunes charts right now, is around 55 to 68 minutes. So long.
Oh, so that's
form.
a long, yeah. Yeah. I know I wake up in the morning and even driving sometimes listen to podcasts. I never thought about it in the context of this until I started researching you and your show. I mean, and what you do. But it is a way for me to get the inspiration on demand that I need when I need it. And I found that to be unique. So as I read about this, it really encouraged me to think about it even more so with PadNet and with Long Beach Cap, because it may reach an audience beyond what we can do with a show like this.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah.
So are you comfortable
That's
that things are going in an exciting way for you so far?
Yeah, I love it. So I had a little bit of a transition with my news career and shifted into media coaching and then into the marketing world for a while. And now that I've launched this podcasting company, I'm really excited to be back in the journalism space. I just love people and I love helping them share their stories. And so I'm so happy to be doing that kind of work again.
So putting your contact information out there will allow people to reach out to you if they want to know more.
Yeah.
Now, will we ever see you in media otherwise in the future, or are you comfortable with this space with what you're doing?
I am sure that I'll be out there from time and time again, talking about what I'm doing with podcasting Made Easy. 'Cause that's a podcast I've launched.
Okay.
But I'm also happy to work behind the scenes and really just like boost other people's stories and kind of be their hype girl.
Great, great.
Yeah.
All right, you can do that well. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Closing thoughts, great question. I used to ask that one all the time.
I read your book.
If you are interested in sharing a story, or if you feel that you have a message that you need to get out there, do it. There should be nothing holding you back, because the ability to do so is present. It's at the ready, and you can do it with or without my help.
Making it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making the drive to join us today. It's always a pleasure when we see each other.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our guests, Gregg Young and Christine O'Donnell, for joining us on today's show. Be sure to follow PadNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lens a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you again for watching Long Beach Lens.